I've always wanted to be free. Since I was 13, I've wanted freedom to do pretty much whatever I wanted without anybody's permission. I think a lot of people want that. Now, I used to think that money was going to be the greatest tool that was going to get me there. Fast forward almost a decade later, and I've realized that I think money was not the greatest tool in finding that freedom. And this is a story about how I went about finding that conclusion. When I was 13, when I was kind of figuring out the stuff that I wanted to do, and I realized that I couldn't just do anything I wanted whenever I wanted, I started to go after money, right? I realized, well, that seems to be the tool that everybody needs to do what they want. And so I started to go after business, started to try and make money in whatever way I can find. So at first, I started a delivery business. I tried to do random stuff like stocks, like drop shipping. Safe to say most of it pretty much failed and didn't make me all that much. When I was 17, I finally started a software development agency, which ended up being the business vehicle that started to make me a little bit of real money. Then I started to have a taste of what freedom through money actually looked like, what it looked like to actually make that money, what the implications of that was. And the moment I really started to realize where money was not the thing that was getting me the freedom was in this trip that I did to a small town in the south of Portugal called Lagos. And bear in mind, this is a city that has like a population of 15,000 people. It's tiny. It's at the very southern tip on the coast, and it overlooks the ocean that eventually actually goes to Morocco. I went there over a weekend that I was in Lisbon. I took a bus. It was like 10 euros. I went there with a friend, got some cheap, crappy Airbnb. The business wasn't making that much money at the time. It was just enough to get a little weekend getaway and get by, basically. I go for this weekend. I go around the little town. I go to the different bars and I go to its cafes, and we're just hanging out. For the first time, it started to dawn on me that some of these people here have a hell of a lot more freedom than I do. In particular, there's this one kid I met. His name is Bruno. I was speaking to him. He was this university student that grew up in the South, and he went to Lisbon. He was in university, and this was his summer, and he was spending it in a bar, actually. He was in a bar with his friends that were from his hometown, and they were hanging out, and he was surfing there and going to the beach. He was really this character who was just, he was having a lot of fun and doing pretty much what he wanted. In the meantime, I retained all my obligations to my clients and my employees at the agency. All of my work brought a big workload along with that financial freedom that I had worked so hard to try and find. Money helps, don't get me wrong. Obviously, I needed a little bit of money to get to that kind of trip. But what really hit me was when I realized that a lot of those people had more freedom than me because they were doing what they really felt like doing, and they just didn't have that many obligations to different people. They didn't need to serve their employees or their clients. They didn't owe anybody salaries. They didn't owe anybody work or delivery. But also, I realized that it didn't take that much for me to be actually quite happy. If you took everything away from me in that moment or today, I would go back to Lisbon or a little town like that if need be, and I would find someplace small to start, and I would find a bar and find some friends. And honestly, I'd probably get started in a business again. I'd probably start working toward building some kind of business, some kind of company again. What I realized really gives me that freedom is the fact that A, I have faith that I can weather any storm, and B, I can be really happy with really, really little. And so that became a source of a hell of a lot of freedom because I'm no longer worried about losing that. I fundamentally realized if I lost everything, I would just restart again and I'd be fine. And that's where my freedom is. It's not in the money. Realizing that this was my ultimate source of freedom really taught me something about my ability to take risks. And I think that has made my life a hell of a lot better. That ultimate freedom that you're looking for is in your ability to start over, your ability to not give a shit. That is where the freedom is.